Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Okay, let's be honest. If you're listening to this, chances are you, like so many of us, are feeling, well, kind of running on fumes sometimes. We're talking about that constant struggle with sleep, the one that just sabotages everything. Your focus at work, maybe your mood at home. It's becoming a really common modern problem. But there's this supplement that's suddenly everywhere. It's moved from the sort of wellness fringes right into the mainstream chat as a potential natural fix for better sleep. That's magnesium. Yeah, it's pretty affordable, easy to find, and there's a lot of buzz suggesting it could be the mineral answer we've been looking for.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because the enthusiasm is definitely high. You see it all over. But as we often find, the actual science is maybe a bit more complex. So I think our mission today in this deep dive is to sift through the sources. We need to cut through some of that hype and really understand what magnesium does in the body. How does its chemistry specifically tie into sleep? How strong is the evidence really? And, maybe most importantly for you listening, what do you need to know to use it safely and effectively? Thinking about forms, dosage, that kind of thing.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's unpack that. Starting right at the beginning, why is magnesium so fundamental? It's not just about sleep, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. It's way more than just a sleep aid. It's essential for life, a real biological powerhouse, you could say. They're talking about an essential mineral here. It's involved in, I think the count is over 300 different enzymatic reactions in the body. Just fundamental stuff. Things like energy production, making ATP, protein synthesis, even muscle function. Basically, if you're alive and kicking, magnesium is playing a role.
Right. So critical for just general functioning.
Exactly. But when we zoom in specifically on sleep, the key connection seems to be its role in nerve function and muscle relaxation. And these aren't small things. Think about it. If your nerves are firing on all cylinders and your muscles are tense, sleep is just not going to happen easily. Magnesium helps your body maintain a state of calm, physiologically speaking. That's crucial for winding down.
Okay, that makes sense. You need that baseline calm to even begin thinking about sleep. But how does that translate into the things people really care about when they're struggling, like sleeping longer, waking up less, or just falling asleep faster in the first place?
Right, falling asleep faster. That's what researchers call sleep onset latency, or SOL. Low SOL means you nod off quickly. High SOL, you're staring at the ceiling. Magnesium seems to target this by getting involved in the actual neurochemistry of relaxation.
Ah, okay, so now we're getting into the brain chemistry side of things, like turning down the volume knob in the brain.
That's a great analogy, actually.
Yeah.
And to understand that, we really need to talk about GABA. GABA, that's gamma-aminobutyric acid, is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter in your central nervous system.
Inhibitory meaning it calms things down.
Precisely. Think of it like the brake pedal for your brain. Or, using your analogy, the dimmer switch. It reduces how excitable your neurons are, promotes relaxation. Now, magnesium doesn't make GABA, but it acts as a critical modulator. It actually binds to GABA receptors in the brain and helps stabilize them. By doing that, it essentially makes those receptors more receptive to GABA's calming influence. It helps GABA do its job better, dampening down that neural chatter.
Okay, so it's like an enhancer for the brain's natural relaxation system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It helps shift the brain from that busy, noisy highway state to more of a quiet side street, a state much more conducive to falling asleep.
That's a much clearer picture than just saying it modulates GABA. But thinking about that mechanism, does that raise any potential issues? Like interactions? If someone's already taking, say, anti-anxiety meds or sedatives that also work on GABA, could adding magnesium cause problems, like make the effect too strong?
That's a really important point, and yes, absolutely, that potential exists. Anytime you're messing with major neurotransmitter systems like GABA, you need to be cautious about additive effects, especially with prescribed sedatives or certain mood stabilizers. This is exactly why the sources always emphasize talking to a doctor first, particularly if you're on any medication affecting your nervous system. It's not just a suggestion, it's really crucial for safety. And GABA isn't the only angle here. Magnesium also seems to play a role in regulating melatonin.
Melatonin, right? The main sleep hormone that controls our internal clock.
Correct. Magnesium supports its efficient production, which helps keep those sleep-wake cycles regular. And then there's the stress connection. Some sources suggest magnesium might help lower stress hormones, think cortisol and renin.
And stress is a massive sleep disruptor for so many people.
Huge. So anything that can naturally help dial down that hormonal stress response is likely going to help with sleep regulation too.
Okay, so mechanistically, it sounds pretty compelling. You've got GABA modulation, melatonin support, potential stress reduction. It almost sounds like a scientific slam dunk for sleep.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is where we often hit that research reality wall. Despite these really promising mechanisms, we have to be honest, the exact pathways, and maybe more importantly, who benefits the most from magnesium supplementation for sleep? Well, that's still being actively researched.
The mechanism is strong, but it doesn't automatically mean it works perfectly for everyone in the real world.
Precisely. Mechanism doesn't always equal a universal solution.
So let's look at the data then. What do the studies actually show? I know observational studies, just looking at large groups of people, tend to find a link, right? People with good magnesium levels generally report better sleep.
That's true. The association is definitely there in observational data. If you have adequate magnesium, you're more likely to report good sleep quality. But when researchers rate the strength of that evidence overall, it consistently comes back as, well, modest to moderate. Not weak, but not overwhelmingly strong either.
Why only moderate if the mechanism seems so solid?
It often comes down to the quality and consistency of the studies themselves. It's complex. You see a lot of variation. Different trials use different forms of magnesium, different dosages. The groups they study are often very different age, health status, baseline magnesium levels. And a big factor is that many studies rely on self-reported sleep diaries or questionnaires, like the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index.
Which are subjective, right? How someone feels they slept.
Exactly. Subjective. Useful, but not the same as objective measures like polysomnography, the full sleep lab setup that tracks brain waves, eye movements, etc. We really need more large-scale studies using those objective measures to establish a stronger, more definitive causal link that applies broadly.
Okay. That lack of standardization explains the mixed results we see in the clinical trials, the ones where they actually give people magnesium versus a placebo. It seems some people have amazing results, others feel nothing. But the sources did suggest two groups often do see pretty consistent positive results: older adults and people with diagnosed insomnia.
Yes, that's a key finding that comes up repeatedly. Those two groups often show more significant improvements, things like sleeping longer, better sleep efficiency, and falling asleep faster.
Why them specifically?
Well, it often comes down to either deficiency or a state of hyperarousal. With older adults, absorption of nutrients like magnesium can decrease with age. They might simply have lower baseline levels. So for them, supplementation might just be correcting an underlying deficiency, bringing them back up to normal. Naturally, you'd expect to see a bigger improvement then.
Makes sense. Restore what's missing.
And for people with insomnia, the condition itself is often linked to being physiologically hyperaroused, especially at night, an overactive nervous system. Since magnesium helps modulate GABA and calm neuronal activity, it's directly targeting a potential root cause of their sleep problem. It's not just a general wellness boost, it's addressing the pathophysiology.
That's a crucial distinction. It's hitting a specific need, correcting a deficiency, or calming an already overactive system. That really helps explain why maybe, say, a healthy young athlete might not notice much difference, but someone older or someone with clinical insomnia could see real benefits. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Exactly right. It highlights how personalized this really needs to be. The scientific consensus is pretty clear. Magnesium is essential, the mechanisms are promising, but we need more robust, standardized trials before we can claim universal benefits for sleep.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the consumer side. Because regardless of the mixed clinical data, public enthusiasm is high. We see magnesium praised everywhere, especially online and in wellness guides.
Oh, definitely. And people are becoming quite savvy about forms of magnesium, which is interesting. The public conversation has moved beyond just take magnesium. People understand now that not all forms are absorbed equally. You have the things like magnesium oxide, which is cheap, but your body doesn't absorb it very well. It tends to stay in the gut.
Right. Isn't that one often used more like a laxative?
Pretty much, yeah, because it draws water into the intestines. Not ideal if your main goal is sleep support. So for sleep, you usually see recommendations pushing towards chelated forms. The most common one mentioned is probably magnesium glycinate.
Glycinate. Why that one specifically?
Well, chelated just means the magnesiums are bound to an amino acid. In this case, it's glycine. Glycine itself actually has some mild calming properties in the brain, but the main advantage is bioavailability. Binding it to glycine helps your body absorb the magnesium much more effectively through the intestinal wall.
Better absorption, less gut irritation.
Exactly. Less likely to cause those common side effects like diarrhea compared to oxide. So glycinate is often seen as a good all-around choice for general relaxation and sleep support.
Okay, but then there's the other one you hear a lot about, usually much more expensive, magnesium L-threonate. It's often marketed specifically for brain health and sleep with the claim that it crosses the blood-brain barrier more easily. Is there truth to that?
Yes, there is evidence supporting that. L-threonate was specifically developed, chemically designed, to increase magnesium concentrations within the brain. Initial research suggests it is better at crossing that protective blood-brain barrier compared to forms like glycinate or citrate.
So if the goal is really maximizing those GABA modulating effects inside the brain,
Then L-threonate has a strong mechanistic argument going for it. You're delivering the magnesium more directly to where those neurological effects happen.
but does that translate to noticeably better sleep in practice compared to, say, the cheaper glycinate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the jury is still somewhat out on whether that extra brain boost leads to significantly superior sleep outcomes for most people. Glycinate often provides good results for general relaxation and sleep because it's well absorbed systemically. L-threonate offers that targeted neural delivery, which might be particularly beneficial for some cognitive aspects or perhaps certain individuals, but you pay a premium for it.
So glycinate might be sufficient for many, while L-threonate is more targeted, potentially more potent neurologically, but costs more.
That's a fair summary. It depends on individual needs and budget, really.
Right. So we have the consumer interest, these specific forms. But tying it back to the science, what's the professional advice on actually using magnesium safely?
The professional perspective is generally one of cautious optimism, I'd say. Experts acknowledge the muscle relaxation benefits. That's pretty clear and helpful for winding down. But they emphasize treating magnesium like any potentially active supplement, not just a harmless mineral.
Meaning, talk to someone first.
Absolutely. Step one should always be consulting a healthcare provider. They can check if you might actually be deficient, rule out any contraindications, especially with medications like we discussed with GABA drugs. If you get the go-ahead, the dosage range often cited in studies for sleep support is typically somewhere between 200 and 400 milligrams per day.
And usually taken when?
Generally recommended to take it maybe an hour or so before bedtime to allow time for absorption and for those relaxation effects to kick in.
Okay. And we should also touch on side effects again. Natural doesn't mean zero risk.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The most common issues, especially if you take too much or use a poorly absorbed form like oxide, are gastrointestinal.
Stomach upset, nausea, diarrhea.
Right. Sticking to the recommended dose and choosing a more bioavailable form like glycinate usually minimizes those problems for most people.
And it's probably best used as part of a broader approach, not just relying on the pill.
Oh, for sure. It should ideally be combined with good sleep hygiene practices, consistent bedtime, dark room, avoiding screens, etc. But again, crafting that combined strategy is best done with professional guidance to make sure it's safe and appropriate for you.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really seems like magnesium does offer a genuinely promising natural avenue for potentially improving sleep, primarily through those foundational roles, relaxing muscles, calming the nervous system via GABA, maybe helping melatonin.
It really is a great example of why informed supplementation matters. The mechanism is there, it's biologically plausible, and we see promising results, especially in specific groups. But we absolutely have to balance that consumer enthusiasm with a critical eye, understanding the current limits of the universal data and the need for a personalized approach.
So the final takeaway for you listening is probably this. View magnesium not as a magic bullet, but as a tool, a potentially useful tool in your sleep toolkit. Understand the difference between forms like glycinate and L-threonate. Keep an eye on emerging research, but always talk to a healthcare professional before starting to ensure it's safe and right for your specific situation. And that brings us to a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. Given this variability we see in the clinical trials, some people benefiting hugely, others not at all, what specific biological marker should future research target? We know general blood levels of magnesium aren't always the full picture, so should we be looking deeper, maybe at cellular energy function, or the density of certain receptors in the brain? Perhaps markers of chronic inflammation or stress. Finding that predictive marker could be the key to moving magnesium from just promising to truly prescribed for sleep issues.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.